Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Sunday night video. This week I am covering the strange story of William Grafton and the attempted murder of Thomas Grafton and Margaret Jane Grafton, which took place in Wallsend in 1924. I hope you will find it interesting. William Grafton was born in Whitehaven in Cumbria to parents Joseph and Jane, and was one of at least 4 children. In 1924 he lived with his wife and some of his children in High Street East, Wallsend. Now his age is quite strange and a bit of a mystery. In every census from his childhood right up until 1921, he is stated as being born in around 1863, and in 1921 he lists himself as being just over 58 years old. However, when the crime took place in 1924, a lot of news reports list him as being 71 years old, and even his crime records state that he is 71. Now I am aware that people sometimes did lie about their age, and other times people didn't even know how old they were for sure, but it seems really odd to me that he would suddenly be around 10 years older than he should be based on the 1921 census. So apart from the actual story, if anyone has any thoughts on this, then do please let me know in the comments below. William was described as a moneylender, and it seems his main clients were miners. Now it's not really known how well he did in this job, but the family don't seem to be poor. However, it does seem that he doesn't get on all that well with his son Thomas, and they are known to frequently argue. In March of 1923, William had been in court on a charge of wounding another miner in the Robin Hood pub on Wallsend High Street. He had claimed that the man owed him money, and he also claimed he had acted in self-defence. The magistrates had clearly not believed him, as he had been found guilty and fined £5 at the time, and he was quite a regular in court during his lifetime. Thomas Grafton, one of the victims and the son of Margaret and William, was born in Durham in around 1887 and was 37 years old at the time the crime was committed. He is listed as being a coal miner, but in January of 1924 he is unable to work due to a recent accident. Margaret Jane Thompson, the other victim, was born in around 1862 in Bedlington to parents Thomas and Jane, and was one of at least 5 children. She had married William Grafton in around 1881 in Gateshead, and the couple had at least 8 children together. And they had lived in various parts of the northeast and had settled in Wallsend sometime between 1911 and 1921. Before we go any further, can I please just say, if you do enjoy this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here or haven't already done so, then do please consider subscribing to the channel to help support the content we create, because it really is appreciated. And it is also completely free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you any money, but it really does help to support the channel. And as always, I just want to add that I do record these stories live, so I do sometimes make mistakes, which I always try to rectify, so I hope this does not spoil your enjoyment of the video. On the night of January the 19th, 1924, Thomas Grafton was at home with his parents in Wallsend when his father William asked his mother Margaret to come and take his shoes off for him. Thomas asked him if he could not take them off himself, and William replied angrily that he could not. William then went into the bedroom, and Margaret went to speak to Thomas. William pushed her out of the way and rushed at Thomas with a razor in each hand. He cut Thomas on the neck and face and other areas. Margaret tried to stop him, but he shouted at her to get away or he would cut her too, which he did, cutting her on the hand and stomach. Margaret went for help and left Thomas alone with William, and luckily at this point, for some reason, he did not attack him any further. Thomas Mitchison, William's son-in-law, who lived in Ashgrove in Wallsend, came to the Graftons' home and helped Margaret to carry Thomas downstairs. And as they were going down, William again lashed out at Thomas, this time striking him on the head with the razor. Once outside and in the safety of a neighbour's home, a doctor and the police were sent for. and Dr. Gill sent Thomas to the RVI so that his wounds could be treated. When PC Tweedy arrived, he went upstairs to speak to William, and William threatened him, throwing a stool at him. PC Tweedy was able to overpower him and arrest him for the attempted murder of his son and also for injuring his wife, and he was taken to the police station. William was remanded several times before he appeared before the magistrates at Wallsend Police Courts in February of 1924. He was now not just charged with attempted murder and assault on his wife and his son, but also with having assaulted PC Tweedy. Thomas Grafton said he lived with his parents at 261 High Street East in Wallsend. He said on the night in question he had been at home due to an accident that meant he was currently unable to walk. His father had come in from work and his mother was already in the house. He said his father called for his mother to come over and take his shoes off for him. He said he asked his father, "Can you not take them off yourself instead of making a slave of my mother all the days of her life?" He said his father said he could not take them off himself, and he then went into the bedroom, and Thomas said he saw him take something out of a drawer, but he did not know what it was at the time. Thomas said his mother walked over towards him, but before she reached him, his father pushed her out of the way and she fell over a form which was nearby. His father then ran at him with an open razor in each hand. He said he was unable to get out of his way, but due to being unable to move without help. Thomas said his father slashed him on the neck and also cut him from his ear to his lip, and a third cut was near to his eyes. His mother tried to help him, but he said his father pushed her out of the way again and told her he would cut her guts out. He said his mother then went to get some help, leaving him alone with his father. He said he did not attack him again while his mother was out, although he did not know why, as his father was still very angry. He said his mother returned with his brother-in-law Thomas Mitchison, and Thomas said he told his mother, "Take me outside, I am dying." He said with the help of his brother-in-law, his mother carried him down the stairs, and as they were going down, his father rushed at them again and struck him on the head with the razor. They were able to get outside and into a neighbour's house. He said Dr. Gill had treated him for his injuries and he had sent him to the Royal Victoria Infirmary, where he had stayed for several weeks. When asked, Thomas said his mother was not in the habit of taking his father's shoes off for him. He was perfectly able to do so himself if he was not so lazy. He said there had been no arguments between himself and his father that day, and if his father was claiming that he had struck him on the head with a stick, this was not true. If he had an injury on his head, then he had no doubt done it himself. He also denied that he had thrown a lamp at his father. He said his father often claimed he had been injured by another person, but often caused the injuries himself. He also added that he had never accused his father of wasting money and had not threatened him in any way. However, his father had threatened him on many occasions. Although no details were given, it was clear from this line of questioning that Thomas's father had claimed his son had attacked him first and had caused him many problems over the previous years. But I did not find any details of any doctor's report of any injuries that he claimed to have been caused by his son Thomas. Margaret Grafton gave very similar evidence to Thomas, only adding that during the fight, when she was trying to help her son, William had cut her fingers with the razor, and he had also cut her stomach when he had pushed her away and slashed at her with one of the razors. She said with the help of her son-in-law she had been able to drag her son to safety and into a neighbour's house. Thomas Mitchison said he lived at 20 Ash Grove in Wallsend and was married to one of William's daughters, Margaret. He said Margaret Sr. had come for his help on the night the attack took place. He said when he found Thomas it was clear to him that William had cut him in as many places as he possibly could. His evidence after this was the same as that of Margaret and Thomas. He said once Thomas and Margaret were safe in the neighbour's house, he had gone to find a policeman and a doctor. When asked, he said he believed that both Thomas and William had been sober at the time the attack took place. Dr. Sidney Gill of Wallsend said he had been called to the home of the Graftons on the night of the 19th of January. He found Thomas lying on a couch in a neighbour's house. He was in a very bad condition. His clothes were soaked with blood. He said he had many wounds to his face and neck, and if he had not been attended to so quickly, his life would have been in danger. He said he had sent him to the RVI so that his wounds could be taken care of properly, and he said that he had recovered well. PC Tweedy said he was called to the Graftons' home at 261 High Street, East Wallsend on the night of the 19th. He said William was still inside and refused to come out. As he was going up the stairs, William had thrown a stool at him and this had hit him on the shoulder. He said he then ran towards him with a razor in each hand, and William, he said, told him he would do him in. PC Tweedy said he used his truncheon to knock the razors from his hands and was then able to overpower William and arrest him. He said he then charged him with the attempted murder of his son and with injuring his wife. He said William simply replied saying, "I must have been going my ends." He said he then charged him with assault and obstructing a police officer in the execution of his duty, and William made no reply to this. No further evidence was given, and the defence asked for William to be allowed bail. This was opposed by Superintendent Metcalfe, and the magistrates denied the request, and William was remanded in custody until his trial. The trial was held at the Moot Hall in Newcastle at the end of February of 1924 before Mr. Justice Radcliffe. Thomas pleaded not guilty to the charges. As is often the case, the majority of the evidence given at the trial is the same as that would have been given at the inquest, only in this case, as there was no inquest, it was the same as what was given at the magistrates' hearing, so I will only include any new information. Thomas Grafton was questioned about his own behaviour with his father in recent years. He said it was untrue that he was a quarrelsome person and he had not attacked his father with his butcher's knife in the past. However, he did admit that he had on many occasions arguments with his father over the years, but he added his father was a powerful man of 19 stones and he himself was only 9 stones, and he would have never fought his father as he would have had very little chance in a battle with him. PC Tweedy said when he first arrived at the scene he had tried to reason with William, asking him to come down peacefully, but William had sworn at him, saying, "I will allow none of you up here." PC Tweedy also added that William had been sober at the time of his arrest. The defence then spoke to the jury, stating that this was a case where William had simply lost his temper after many years of putting up with his quarrelsome son, and he had never had any intention to commit murder or to do any grievous bodily harm. It was for them to decide if they felt this was a crime of intent. I did not find any evidence of a statement made by the prosecution, but I think we can assume that they would have stated that William had threatened his son many times previously and had acted in a way that would suggest he had every intention of killing him that night. How could a person attack another with a razor in each hand and not intend to do them harm? The jury retired for a short time before returning a verdict of guilty of wounding for his son with intent to do grievous bodily harm, and also guilty of the unlawful wounding of his wife. The charge against William regarding the police officer was not mentioned. The judge then sentenced William to 18 months penal servitude with hard labour, and he stated that he did not believe the defence of provocation one bit at all. After this, a list of previous offences was read out in the courtroom, and it seems that William had led a very troublesome life. He had a string of some 55 appearances in court, which included things such as 18 cases of assault, 20 for drunkenness, and 1 for stealing beef and sugar, and he had been sent to prison at least 3 times in the past. I was not able to find out where William was sent to serve his sentence. However, I do know that he died in 1926 at the age of around 63. I do not know if he was still in prison at the time. And this also does bring us back to the subject of the beginning of this story, where I mentioned his age difference, because his death records clearly say he was born in around 1863 and that he was around 63 years old at the time of his death. Thomas clearly recovered from his injuries and was able to return to his work as a coal miner, but sadly he lost his life in an accident at the Rising Sun Colliery in 1937 at the age of around 50 years. The details of his death are unknown, and I did not find any evidence of a headstone in the area for either William or Thomas. This was another very strange story. It seems that the whole attack on the night of the 19th was caused because of Thomas asking William to take his own shoes off and not to ask his mother to do it, which made William so angry that he decided to attack Thomas with 2 razors and to also injure his wife at the same time. It's not really clear what tipped him over the edge other than the shoes, as it was said by most that he was sober at the time, but his long list of previous offences, many for assault, suggest he was a man who could easily lose his temper over little to nothing. And no evidence seems to have been given to suggest that Thomas had attacked his father, although clearly from his statement denying this, William had at some point claimed that this had been the case. However, it truly does seem that William simply lost his temper and attacked his son over a pair of shoes. Were the jury correct to find him guilty? Well, it has to be said from the evidence of the doctor of how bad Thomas's injuries had been, the fact that William had assaulted the police officer and his wife, there was simply no other verdict they could have come to, as only William could have been responsible for what happened to Thomas and Margaret that night. Was 18 months a long enough term of imprisonment? Well, to be honest, I don't think it was, as he had come very close to killing his son had the doctor not been sent for so quickly and been able to save him. So I think he should really have got a slightly longer sentence. But what do you think? Do you think William was just someone who could lose his temper at the drop of a hat and had simply attacked his son over the shoes comment? Or do you think it was possible that Thomas had attacked his father first? Although I must admit that seems unlikely based on the fact that he wasn't even able to walk at the time, let alone attack his father. Do you think that the sentence was enough for the crime, or do you think he should have been given a longer term in prison? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I do hope that you have found this very strange and tragic story interesting, and I do want to thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again next week.